Now, after 17 dedicated years as County Librarian with Clare Libraries, Helen Walsh has stepped into retirement, leaving behind an extraordinary legacy in culture and community life across the county, from first taking up the role in 2009 to overseeing the development of the landmark new DeValera Library and Súil Gallery beside Glór. Helen has helped reshape the library service in Clare, and I'm delighted to be joined by her now. Helen, very good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank
and
you.
Happy retirement.
Thank you very much. I'm just getting used to it. So this is my first week. I'm officially a week retired today.
And what is it like not having to hear that alarm in the morning, or if you do still hear it, being able to turn it off?
Well, I do still hear it, and I do get up at the same time. So I suppose I did a pre-retirement course, and one of them, kind of the impression that we got was that you kind of continue with your old structure for a while, and then you kind of decide what way your life is going to be. So I get up at the same time every morning still. So
keep some sort of routine going,
yeah,
and if you do want to change, you can kind of slowly ease your foot off the pedal.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. A long career, as I say, you began your role back in June 2009, and you know, when you go back that near 17 years, what stands out most from those early days in particular?
Well, I suppose I came in during a recessionary period, so finances weren't that easily available, but I was very lucky to lead on the project for Cultural in Sweeney. So in 2012, Cultural in Sweeney had been a 1950s building and had been acquired to philanthropic money back in the day, and there had been money put on hold as such to redevelop it if it ever needed it, and it did need it because it had been very much a high quality 1950s building. So we employed L&M Keating and we revamped it all in the space of 1 year, and at a cost of 1.6 million back in the day. You got value for money back then, and we got a 100-seat theatre, a smaller library, and an art gallery, which was brilliant. So that was my first project really here as such. And then again, with finances and with the support of our council, we revamped Kilrush Library in 2018, and then of course the big project was our new library, which basically started at the end of December in 2013. So I think, you know,
it was a long time in the making, wasn't it?
It was a decade in the making, to be honest. I mean, the design was there in 2018, but you know yourself, COVID hit and our contractors went bust and all of those things. So it was a protracted project, really, in a way.
It took a while, but I think anyone who has availed of these services in there, including myself, would say worth waiting for. It's a fantastic building. We'll get to that in a moment. But even, you know, you mentioned Cultural on Sweeney and so on. Those early projects that you're a part of, when you know, going from paper to reality, how satisfying is it to be part of the plans and the part of the vision for something and seeing it come to fruition and being part of a community and a vital service in the community?
I suppose I'm struck that the early county librarians were there for long periods of time, and obviously I took over from Noel, who had 30 years in the job, so that's a good period of time to achieve a lot. So I suppose I was very lucky in that I achieved quite a lot in the 17 years, including like leading on 1916, that 2016 coordinator, Creative Ireland coordinator. I put the book festival back together again when it actually the voluntary committee disbanded in 2015, so I re-established it as a different type of festival with a different sort of a more kind of structured setup with regard to a paid programmer. So I kind of feel there was other elements happening at the time which really embedded me into the culture of the county in a way that maybe, you know, you wouldn't normally get that opportunity, but I had fantastic opportunities along the way to become involved in community. Again, I was the Creative Ireland coordinator, which basically puts funding into artistic and creative communities up and down the country, up and down the county. So I've had a very kind of I've been inducted into a lot of the cultural fabric of the county. Again, the Centurial Sphere, which is opposite the cloister, that was commissioned as the council's response to 1916. So I've had great variety in the job, which has been brilliant, and I've really appreciated it. You were on the board of
Glór as well for a decade.
Yes, I forgot. I've been on the board of Glór for 10 years, so heavily involved there, and delighted to be able to have the time to go and enjoy everything that Glór has to offer. I suppose the job is a very, very busy job, and it's always in your head. I woke up the Friday morning after I retired and I was missing my emails, I was missing my laptop. I was sort of ready to prioritise for the day.
It's not too often you hear people say that.
No, it's a weird feeling.
Yeah.
Now, it only lasted a day, thank God, because if I was carrying it around for the next week, I'd be worried about myself.
Yeah.
But I did have that feeling because you're going until the very last, and I was going until the very last, to be honest. I kind of stopped at 1 o'clock on the last day I was working, and then there was a retirement due in the library for me, and that was it.
I'd imagine though, it's I think if someone going on holiday, there's a lot of loose ends to tie up before you head away for 2 weeks. Never mind finishing up for good. I'm sure there was a lot of things that had to be sorted before you finished.
There was, but I got out to the branches because I knew some of my staff wouldn't be able to get in to say goodbye, so I got out to some of the outlying branches to say goodbye to staff. I also was inducting Cora, who's acting county librarian in my stead, so that kind of took place over a number of weeks, so I was in some level of readiness, but it does kind of very abruptly stop. There's kind of a bit of a shock factor, which I've come to terms with, thank God.
Even though you're one of those people, when we've spoken about retirement on the show before, be it with Tommy Corbett or whoever, anyone else, Helen, they talk about planning. Some people don't plan. You planned, but even still, with that, there's still that shock element.
I suppose we don't know really until we do it how we're going to react. And I had spoken to 1 or 2 county librarians who had retired, and they did sort of say, look, it's a very strange feeling. It hits people in different ways. A colleague in one of the other counties just walked away completely and hasn't gone back to the library since, and that's over 2 years ago. Now, I will be in and out. I still have enough interest. And
I was going to ask you that. Will you be going in just to meet old friends? And, just I'm sure you're an avid reader regardless.
Yeah, I am. And I lead we have a book club that meets the last Tuesday of every month. So I kind of pulled that together. So we pick the book and we discuss the book and all the rest. That'll continue. So I have my book club group. I'll be in and out. We have a fantastic set of lectures and everything to our local studies section. So I'll be in and out to those. We have a big response to community initiatives as well. So we have all sorts of lectures, workshops, talks going on in our multi-purpose room. I'll be in and out of those as well. So, but I don't want to ghost the place. I don't want to be kind of a constant presence. So I'll measure myself with regard to when I pop in and out. And of course, I'd obviously love to see all the staff, because I had leaving, there was 78 staff. Like, it was 70 full-time equivalent right through Library Arts, Museum and Archives. So it wasn't just the library service I led. I had responsibility for the arts and the museum and archive service as well. So I left quite a cohort of staff behind. I'm going to be calling in to see people along the way.
Well, it's lovely that you'll still be able to maintain those connections that were built up over such a long time. And you touched on some of the big challenges or momentous events that occurred during your 17 years. Brexit, COVID, and Brexit in particular, I'm sure disrupted supply chains to a great degree. It did for lots of other businesses and sectors, I'm sure, in terms of securing new books and all that. It caused issues, and then COVID made it difficult for people to even attend libraries. What was it like to try and navigate through those difficult years?
I suppose Brexit wasn't too bad in that there was a protocol adopted by our government, and we would have bought books from the UK at the time. There was a tender, so we actually had a UK tender, but that seemed to work out okay. COVID was a totally different animal, and I led to a certain extent with regard to the council's response to COVID, because we had a network of buildings. Now, they were all closed, but we actually our staff got into cars basically and went up the laneways and byways of the county delivering books to people. So you rang into the library and you requested a service, and we just kind of, our delivery van as well as our staff in cars, went out to people kind of in isolated areas.
That's an incredible effort, and I'm sure that meant so much to people during those difficult times, because loneliness was a big factor as well.
Oh, absolutely, and particularly our elderly population who really were cut off, and we still actually do it, not to a huge extent, but we still actually, as a hangover of COVID, some of our branches still actually operate delivering books out. And I suppose I'm delighted that the one kind of legacy item I've left behind is that we actually have ordered a new mobile. So the very first county librarian in Clare had a mobile service. It was the way that actually books got out to geographic locations around the county, and we have one basically that's partly funded by the department and partly funded by our local authority, which should be coming in 2027. So we'll open up routes into North Clare, South East Clare, that we don't actually have a service, like Bunratty and places like that. So and we also, at that time, going back with COVID, we then advanced it and we put care packs into the boxes going out. So little kind of crosswords and kind
lovely.
of things like that. So it was a really nice gesture.
The new library, as you mentioned, it opened the 11th of November 2024, but really, I suppose the origins of it began back in 2013. I guess, the old library in Harmony Row, you would have thought was no longer fit for purpose. At what point did you begin to imagine something bigger? And then we're talking about disruptions from COVID and Brexit when the original builder goes into receivership. Are you thinking, is this new library ever going to be fully realised and open to the public?
Yeah, and I know that there was a great affection for the old library, and it was a really well-used library, but we had just outgrown the site we were on. Plus, actually, I started as County Librarian in March 2009, and I will never forget the flood of November 2009. So that basically knocked out our heating. It really affected the library, the Presbyterian church to the front of the building, which we always use as our kind of multi-activity room. We didn't get enough compensation to bring that back. So already we were stymied.
You were down a vital service then.
We were down a vital service. Our local studies got hit. Our Clare collection got, some of it got destroyed. We lost about €2,000 worth of stock in our Clare collection. So at that stage, it was actually considered end of life, the building, when our own engineers went in to assess it. So that makes a very strong case for department funding. So from then onwards, we were actually on the list. But again, money was very hard to get, and we sat on that list, and there was no capital funding for libraries until 2016. So that was the start. So you build up an envelope of finance through grant aid and the local authority as well, putting the package together to be able to finance the building.
There's obviously a lot to do, Helen, as you're touching on there, but isn't it incredible that a building is assessed as being end of life and you're on life support for over a decade?
We were absolutely, and it became even more and more apparent kind of as each year went by, and libraries were diversifying into a lot more responses to the public. There was a lot more expected of us to be able to deliver in our small branch, which we couldn't do. Our local studies always had an excellent kind of service and was well respected by historians and academics, but and that was a standalone building, but we actually brought three of them together. So I suppose a lot of people don't realise we have library headquarters up on top as well. So we have actually in the building, we have about 25 staff between out on the floor and then upstairs, and we run the county service from the top of that building as well.
And you have the gallery as well. And how important was it for you to combine that literature, learning and visual arts in one shared cultural space?
It was really important because...
And connected to Glór too then.
Yeah, we did extensive public consultation, and the one thing that came out of it all was really the visual artists. They really felt that they had nowhere really of... nowhere of stature, that they could actually showcase their work. And we actually had a session with them in Glór, and it was the most well attended session. And as a result of that, then we got our Súil gallery, which is programmed by our arts officer. We have art staff in there. It's a fantastic addition. It's a lovely space to be in, and we can also use it as library service. We use it on a Monday when they're not open, so it's an extra space as well for the library to be able to, kind of have kind of workshops and whatever in when it's not in use as an art gallery. Yeah,
look, the new library is an incredible facility, and great that it kind of your time as County Librarian ends with the initial period of the opening of the new DeValera library. Just before we let you go, Helen, we're almost out of time. You did bring a rather large book with you, The Story of Clare and Its People, a history of local government in Ireland's Banner County, 1570 to 2020, so covering 450 years. Tell us a bit about it.
I suppose this was one that Pat Dowling was involved in, so there had been histories of local authorities done elsewhere, and he felt that Clare needed one. Okay. So he got a few of us involved, and it was during that time I became really friendly with Noel Crowley. Noel was on the committee with me, and we had John Tracy and Matthew Potter as the co-authors of the book, and Joe Parr then was the fact checker on it. But unfortunately it got published during COVID, so it never really got not the applause as such, but it never got the exposure we had wanted. Yeah. But it's a fantastic history of the county and a history of the local authority. Great index in the back. If you ever want to know anything about any local authority service in there, I wrote the library part of it, the arts part. So it's a great reference tool for anyone as well. So I'm delighted to give you a copy. I didn't know whether you had one or not. No, well, we definitely do now, Helen. Thank you so much for that, and no doubt you'll be able to check it out in all good bookshops and the library indeed itself. You're still going to be in there, but not as County Librarian. But you served well for 17 years. Helen Walsh, thank you so much. Happy retirement to you, whatever you get up to, and thanks for joining us this morning. Thank you very much.